Und der Heißner mutet sich zum Start.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the vCD RoundTable. We are live and an exception, everybody is actually in their home offices today. So I'm actually in the office and everybody else is in their offices. Today we have a bit of a packed agenda. We are going to cover a bit of an overview of Cloud Director 10.6 and VCF 5.2. We also have a few questions already which bubbled up in the chat, which we can cover as we go along. Today's episode is really covered from a content perspective more towards the overview of all of these different scenarios, because there is so much new with all the changes in VCD and VCF that we are going to cover a lot of that in individual sessions in the next couple of weeks. So we try to get you an overview. But before we get into the topics, let's start with a quick round of hellos. Matthias turned off the microphone as the first one, so he's going to be the first.
See, that's how you manipulate people. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Sasha. Welcome.
Hi, Toby here as well. Welcome to episode 32.
Good. Let's start, I think, with the Cloud Foundation part, because that's going to be more or less the underlying part for the Cloud Director piece moving along. Toby, I know you covered quite a bit in your videos and sessions in the last couple of days already. I did similar things on my more shorter videos. Maybe you give it a start, I think, around update management, DPUs, and everything else, and then I take it along with some of the other wonderful features.
Yes, sounds like a plan. Key functionalities in 5.2. One is what you already mentioned. We got the import functionality, so you can now import an existing vCenter environment into your VCF environment, but please be aware, with the first release, only vSAN is supported. So you need to have at least a cluster which is running on vSAN, and on vSphere, no additional products. So if you have already NSX, for example, installed or anything else, it is currently not supported. So currently, we can, from a brownfield perspective, we can only import a cluster which is running on vCenter and on vSAN. As always, please have a look into the release notes regarding what version you need to have, at least if you need maybe to provide some additional updates before you can utilize the import functionality. So this is it, more or less what we have gotten from an brownfield experience. Then the next thing is that we have now get the availability also to utilize the live patching, which is, to be honest, an vSphere feature, but it has come also now to VCF, so we can do a live patching. What is live patching at the end? At the end, live patching is that you only need to enter maintenance mode, that you don't need to reboot your ESXi after you have applied the patch. So just apply the patch. All of the models will be restarted, and then you can take out your host of maintenance mode. And what has been there also since ages from an VCF perspective, but now it finally reached the user interface experience, is that we can now utilize the asynchronous patch. So we can patch just, for example, just NSX or just vSphere, and that not always need to apply the whole VCF patch lifecycle. That's also a great enhancement, because as we have seen it in the last couple of weeks, there are multiple vulnerability announcements were there, and normally you always need to wait until VCF has provided the next patch. And with the asynchronous patch tool, you are allowed to also just update a portion of your whole VCF stack. From a hardware perspective, DPU support was there since ages, but what we now can also utilize in VCF is the dual DPU. So you can utilize at least two AMD Pensando or NVIDIA SmartNICs in your ESXi, and get better performance, get more enhanced usability and redundancy in your VCF environment. I think we will cover the whole vCloud Foundation Edge part in a dedicated session, but just give you a quick overview. VCF is now carrying out more and more to, let's call it, smaller subsidiaries and also maybe remote locations that you can deploy just a portion of VCF in edge manner, where you can say, hey, there is my onboarding for public cloud spaces or for offsite locations. Also quite interesting. And the last one is back to you, Yves, with the whole vSAN improvements. And if you unmute yourself, it will work.
It will work if I unmute myself. So yes, vSAN is clearly one of the big pieces. I think one step back real quick is all the features you just mentioned, Toby, are perfectly well showing what we have been saying since end of last year. Is like Broadcom's first steps most likely are going to be trying to integrate and actually get all of these things to work better together. And actually, in the end, all of this is actually leading towards not a very selfless scenario, but a very, very simplistic scenario, because if Broadcom gets all these products to work better together and gets the integration easier, they will automatically lower the support costs, which in the end is directly playing towards more or less Hock's play game, which he described from the early on days that he wants to get these things down. So it's no wonder that we see certain features which have been in the baking for VCF for many, many years all of a sudden seem to get more priority to actually solve some of these issues. And you also see this when I'm moving over to the vSAN part is it was not only us for certain service providers that we said the ESA mode is something which we require for vSAN in combination with VCF. So that's actually on the VCF 5.2 list now as well. You can use ESA with the storage architecture in combination with stretched mode now, which was something which we had to deploy differently in previous service provider deployments. We see a massive increase in the file services. The file services are great, but I'm still not sure if they are ever going to really fully replace a file server. I have my personal. It's great if we want to use them as a base service below for many other VMware services. But the question for me is how long will we have file servers in a legacy mode anyway? So that's a completely different ballgame as companies are moving more and more towards object storages and things like that. The other important part is that VCF now finally supports vSAN Max, so that you can actually have either storage-only clusters or at least storage-only nodes. And this is explicitly mentioned during the let's say pre-briefing, which we got shortly ahead of the not deployment of the go live statements. Was that this is especially because customers have certain scenarios where they just don't have enough storage capacity within the cluster so that you can use that. And at least back then, the message was clearly this is going to apply to all license models, that you can use this. Again, the usage guides for the service providers haven't been updated yet. We raised that question as well as the question around the edge use case already with the cloud provider team, because both of them are very valid scenarios for service providers, and they would be very, very interesting, because if I can use vSAN Max in combination with a lot of the other changes we have been discussing lately on how to optimize or fine-tune licensing for the service provider, that could actually solve a few problems, because it might actually be more attractive for service providers to do a mixed setup for that. So those are just some of the changes. There are some hardware changes as always. There are certain notes that reconstruction again should be faster. This is something they always say on every release. So, and a few other things. But I think that's overall, it's a good mode to see that. I think especially what Toby mentioned, the in-place updates and having asynchronous updates and stuff like that now in the GUI are going to make everybody's life a lot easier and drive the adoption for VCF much higher. Good. There are a few questions on service provider things and also packaging, but I think those are the main parts on VCF. We will have a few more sessions with a few more details on individual features, especially also as we figure out the license consequences, and we want to play around with the import tool on how we could use that in combination with Cloud Director. And before we go into Cloud Director details, which Matthias and Sasha are going to cover, let me quickly jump onto a few questions. So one of the questions which we got before the session was whether we think that vCD is going to be embedded into ARIA and or how this is going to work. So let me throw in my personal opinion on that. Again, that's the personal opinion, and then everybody else can throw their personal opinion in there. So let's start with the point is we had this story already roughly 10 years ago. Yeah, maybe it was 10 years ago when VCDA came for, not VCDA, when VCAC was on board, because back then the statement was the multi-tenancy will become VCAC, some features go into vSphere, and then VCD is gone. And up until then, we leave it for the service providers. More or less, my feeling is we have the same message now. I think the question is, in the end, is Broadcom has the clear opinion they want to streamline the product line so that they only have one product for one feature. And I think this is where this whole story comes around from, hey, ARIA automation and VCD have a lot of overlap, so let's mix them together. If this wouldn't have been tried before, let's see how far they get. And if they don't figure out that the relatively small amount of VCD developers VMware and Broadcom has, whether it does not actually make sense to maintain them versus trying to mix two completely different products together. But that's my personal opinion. Who wants to go next?
So, two thoughts on VCD and VRA. First of all, there are still rumors out there. We're not commenting anything on rumors. On the other hand, my personal opinion is it would make perfect sense to combine those two products. I have no idea from a technical standpoint if it's possible, yes or no, but if you grab the features, it would be awesome. So from my thinking, it would be really great using the whole multi-tenancy resource management part of Cloud Director. So in the end, the whole product, and put the cloud templating functionality of VRA on top. With that, you firstly would have the ability with full multi-tenancy, with the proper resource management, and with the extension of cloud templates, you have now three options. You can use plain virtual machine. Could use plain virtual machines. You could use VApps, which we currently know from Cloud Director, and the third one would be the deployment of VRA, which is more the multi-cloud approach instead of a virtual machine and via a template. Of course, in that case, someone would need to enable Cloud Director to talk to public cloud providers and especially the hyperscalers. So honestly speaking, my personal opinion would be if they integrate it like this, I would really looking forward to it. If it happens, I honestly don't know.
Sasha, unmute.
I think it will become very interesting in the future. So we have this product with VCDA, we have Cloud Director, and we also have VCF, which will be the middle of all of the products. And how will VCF be integrated in VRA or VCD or whatever? How can we combine these products in the future? Or will VMware work on add-ons, combine more the different products in VCF also? So nobody knows. There are a lot of rumors from the different business units, from the different communities. let's see. So it was a clear statement. VCD will stay. So I absolutely believe in that, and let's go this way.
Yeah, also from my side, 100% what Matthias mentioned. Integrate these two products together would be a perfect solution, especially with all of the functionality. What we can already say is don't utilize the name ARIA longer anymore. There will be a name change. It has been announced already, Matthias. It is there. Let's think that VCF will come into the naming. So VCF operations is some interesting name in the future. And also the whole integration into the from my perspective, the most problem at the moment is that we have so many lifecycle managers. We have the lifecycle manager for cloud providers. We have the ARIA suite lifecycle manager. So also on that hand, there quickly need to be an integration between those lifecycle managers. And then, yeah, let's see what product will survive in the future.
Good. Which brings us quickly to vCDA, which was another question which came up. Is vCDA, it has, I think, more or less the same problem. I think what Broadcom just did is they said none of the service providers who are currently not using vCDA for DR purposes are allowed to actually start utilizing the product. For my feeling is they are currently trying to figure out how they get all the three different ways they have for DR management all together in one product. And once they have that figured out, they will actually come back with the final solution, which will support all of them. In the end, it's not that far from each other because all of them are more or less using the same replication engine below. There are some minor tweaks below that, but overall, the system works more or less the same for all the different approaches. Site Recovery Manager, on one hand, actually brings in all the runbooks, which are currently missing on the service provider side. Therefore, the service provider side has much more flexible in regards to tunneling and everything else. So if you combine all of these bits and pieces, which were just developed separately, I think we will get one product out of it. The only big question is how much they are going to try to force people really into their cloud storage for that, because that is what they are trying to do on the enterprise side, where they more or less, you can't get Site Recovery Manager standalone anymore, period. It's like the only way you can get it now is actually in also buying into Broadcom's cloud storage for it. I'm not sure if that is going to kill them in the end, because I heard from several customers already in the enterprise space that leads for them to the fact that they are going to kick out Site Recovery Manager and replace everything again with Veeam, or actually buy the Veeam or Veeam Orchestrator, or however that thing is called, and actually do it that way. Because not everybody likes the idea to actually push it all into the VMware by Broadcom cloud, especially now that the VMC part is basically you can only buy 1 or 3 year contracts. So if you need to recover there and you need to leave it running longer because your data center burned down and you don't get new hardware, then you're basically in doomland. So it looks like someone constructed something which is not 100% thought through. So I'm expecting we will soon see a product again, but the question is, what features are they going to allow in combination with VCD? Do they really want to have the service providers be a competition for themselves, or do they restrict the product from them? Good. That being said, cloud.
There is already a license bundle. Is it called Life Recovery? No.
Yeah, but that's not compatible to Cloud Director. It's on the price list, but it's not compatible to Cloud Director. So speaking about Cloud Director 10.6, nearly 1 year until we had the last major release. This one is similar to VCF, packed with a bunch of features which we have been waiting on for long. Some of them you can clearly see that people were actually, especially not necessarily only regarding white label, but a few other things, were requesting certain feature sets. But Matthias, do you want to start with the parts you want to talk about? I think the distributed catalog and the sub-provider piece. Start with distributed catalog to keep the tension up for the
No, because you already started with handing over functionality, and that's the whole sub-provider configuration. What is it about? It is handing over responsibilities within a single instance. In the past, Cloud Director, or until speaking as of last Friday, Cloud Director was clearly structured into the provider view and the tenant view. And with the sub-provider, we just add a third layer. So we have now kind of a 3-tier architecture within the product, enabling the central service provider to hand over certain service provider tasks to tenants. The question is it a real tenant for the service provider self? It is a tenant, but it could be a smaller service provider. It could be a solution for like tier 1, tier 2 white label SPs. That's one option. So in the past, if you would like to have achieved that, we needed to deploy multiple VCD instances, and now we can do everything in a single instance with the sub-provider. So what can be done? Some very interesting parts, sub-provider functionalities, create organizations, and the whole resource management around organizations can be done by a sub-provider, as well as branding and IDPs and stuff like this. An interesting part will be, and that's something we need to cover in detail a bit later, is how the whole roles and rights bundle concept will change with the sub-provider. Because what I read so far is a sub-provider can also create and publish roles. So that would be a massive improvement. Currently, the whole roles and rights bundle management in Cloud Director is already great, and it's working perfectly fine. But with the sub-provider handing over also the ability to manage roles for a subset of tenants is a key factor. Another interesting part is the distributed catalog. Currently, we have the challenge if we build centralized catalogs for tenants. It's challenging to enable a tenant to actually use the catalog in terms. A very simple example is if you provide ISO files via a central catalog, the destination virtual machine, or no, that's very different. The cluster which runs the virtual machine needs to have access to the data store, which is actually underneath the catalog. So in larger infrastructures, that's a pretty complex configuration, because you're more forced to use a publish and subscribe mechanism, or to replicate catalog content manually from one catalog to another to enable tenants to use it. The distributed catalog, as far as I understood, is taking the manual replication part from us and implement it into the product. So Cloud Director takes care of replicating files and bits and pieces between the catalogs. Again, we will do a more detailed session on this, but I think it's huge because it eases life a lot in larger infrastructures dealing with a central installation repository. So 10.6, it's major, yes.
Major.
Sasha, what's your idea about 10.6?
Sasha.
Yeah, so we have some news. So also a lot of service providers or customers waited to create more than one snapshot. That's now possible. Then you can create.
Snapshots are no backups.
Please.
I know, but we have a lot of services waiting for it. and the service providers asked for it, and now it's possible.
So again, Sasha has his own opinion.
The only good part out of it is that the older ones of us, I'm talking about Matthias, finally get more things to do because he can now finally come back and actually repair more VMFS and VMDKs again because people are going to do up their virtual machines, and potentially there is only a small amount of people left who can actually fix this.
I have to jump on this because I read it somewhere yesterday or the day before. In the latest vSphere release, or in the next one, in the latest vSphere release, you can set an expiration date on a snapshot, and that's awesome. And yeah, not kidding. Yeah, RTFM, RTFM.
8.0 update 3 has now the introducement of snapshot will expire on.
So that's really cool. So I hope.
Can I set that to 2 hours then, please?
we can fake it. So that's really cool. And I personally hope that this feature will come to the Cloud Director UI better sooner than later, because if the expiration of a snapshot implies the deletion, which is a persistency of the changes, I think that would improve virtual machine management a lot, and even for customers.
Yeah, but
again, Sasha, multiple snapshots. I'm so sorry.
On the snapshots, you are able as a service provider to say, hey, I will limit it and leave it with one snapshot. So you as a service provider can say, hey, I give them the count and how many snapshots the users can.
-1.
No, -1 is undefined. It's unlimited again, Matthias. Don't do it.
Oh.
Yeah, another important point on 10.6 are 2 interesting options. So we got it in the release notes from 10.6 that Tanzu Kubernetes grid clusters with vSphere 8.0 update 3 are not longer supported. So if you are using TKG with vSphere, that's not longer supported with Cloud Director if you upgrade to vSphere 8.0 update 3. Another important point is we got this information 2 or 3 weeks ago with an information mail from VMware. Hey, if you know anyone who is using CSE and with Cloud Director, please give us the contacts and contact all of them, because that's not longer supported. They canceled the support for TKGM for cloud service providers. And that's a big problem. With this announcement, they released the version 4.2.2 of CSE, and 4.2.2 is the only version who is supported with 10.6. That means all of the service providers upgraded now to 10.6 have the problem that CSE plugin is not longer running. And they are not able to download the latest version 4.2.2 because they have no support within the normal VCF license.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Neil is saying he lost audio, but I can still hear Sasha.
I can hear Sasha as well, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be platform specific. I'm currently playing around with some of them.
And we just
again, the recording seems to be fine, so you will get everything in the podcast later on anyway.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a big problem, because now with the latest versions, if you're running vSphere 8 update 3 and running 10.6, you are not able to run Kubernetes clusters.
But Sasha, we have another question in the chat regarding TKG. Maybe you want to answer it from Nihal. It's a question about no more dependency on vCenter for TKG with the new release. Is that kind of related?
So I'm not sure what is in the latest versions of VCF and vSphere 8. So it was depending on the vSphere with Tanzu. they planned to create TKGS management clusters that are independent of the vCenter, so that you can move your TKG clusters between different clusters. That will be interesting. That maybe is in the latest version included, but I don't took a look because most of the service providers currently focusing on TKGM, and since a few days ago we are taking a deeper look again on TKGS. But before giving a real answer in combination with Cloud Director, we need to have a roadmap from the Tanzu BU, because currently there is no communication from the Tanzu BU, and also no information in the release notes or in other channels because of the v3.8 update 3 and TKGS in combination with Cloud Director. So I would absolutely say, if you have customers with Cloud Director and TKGS, make sure that you don't update to update 3 if you are on v3.8 until we have some more information. It's a bit more difficult on TKGM and 10.6 because of the security fix. Most of many service providers just are still updated to 10.6 and now have no longer access to the add-ons. Let's wait a few minutes. We are trying to get in contact with VMware, and we'll keep you up to date in the next roundtable.
Good. Okay.
Then we have another question from Raffaello. Any news for a commercial portal? 3 months we don't report points.
So you are not really reporting points anymore. Your usage meters should actually be reporting the amount of cores. There is a cloud portal where all the Premier and Pinnacle partners can go in and actually see their usage meters and the amount of cores which are reporting. Everybody was basically told in April to actually make sure that all of this is being set up and everything else. I have no clue what Broadcom does with all the ones who are not actually reporting at the moment. Also, talking quickly about the reporting, the latest usage meter guide has been very, very clear. There is no exception anymore. You need to actually do online reporting. Actually, whereas the last one had a statement in there which said it's like you can talk to your representative and potentially find a solution. The latest FAQ document says clearly there are no exceptions allowed anymore. Everybody needs to report with their usage meter online now. There are certain cases where we are going to review that, but again, it seems like that's going to be the norm moving forward. And you should be able to report. The amount of reports you can pull out of the system is more or less 0. It just actually gives you the amount of cores it counts and nothing else. It also doesn't tell you at the moment anything in regards to vSAN or NSX or anything of the other products where you might have add-ons. So it seems like that all of these features are not yet there in usage meter, or they are not yet there in the reporting tool. One or the other. But yes, you should be reporting. All of the systems are back in place. We are doing that for our white label hosts, as well as everybody else should be doing the same. So invoicing, so quoting, invoicing, and billing process is slowly starting. So I know from us, we started to send out the first batch of invoices just yesterday to our service providers. This is going to go on for the next couple of days because we need to figure out certain things on how we are going to handle them. But that's going to be the process moving forward. So you should see invoices coming in.
So Raffaello just rephrased, so it's working, but he cannot confirm, I think, the content of the report as before. Because in a new portal, you just see, oh, there's a usage meter. It's online, it's reporting, and that's it.
That's it, yeah.
I tried to, there is the middle tab, which is called, I think, report or reports. And if you click on that tab, there is, you can choose a timeline, and then there's a drop-down menu, which is meant to select the usage meter, and if you open the drop-down menu, it's just empty.
Yeah, but you are able to collect over this menu. You can collect the reports of the vCPU usage, but that's all currently.
Yeah.
And that's we have struggling with a lot of service providers because of that problem, because they downloaded the usage meter infos to create their own billing to the customers. And the only solution here is currently if you still go with VRAM, and deploy vRealize operations, create your reports, and then you are fine.
And as far as I heard, Alain has pre-built some things. So if you don't want to go through all of this yourself, feel free to reach out to us. We might be able to help you and actually get you kick-started on that. We still need to review your individual cases, but we at least are not starting from scratch anymore. So you don't have to go through the learning process as we did. Good. I think that kind of sums up a very good first episode.
Two things from my side. One is, please be aware that local users in VCD for production are set to deprecation. So officially not longer supported in the future that you use local users in VCD in a production environment. Only
the
in
documentation clearly says with the next major version.
Yeah, but it is set to deprecation, and also RMQ and RMQB is set to deprecation. So if you have any RMQB stuff, you should have a look to move forward to MQTT.
Yeah.
Buggers.
Yeah, Matthias, finally the old stuff is going to be removed.
Dude, it took me 4 years to get access to the internal AMQTT bus. It took me 4
but that one is going to stay. The other one is going to go.
Which
MQTT, RMQ is going away.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was also announced already 2 years ago. It's nothing new. Good. Real quick. Next 2 episodes. Next episode is going to be on CSE and the future of Kubernetes. So either we have answers from them, or we are going to actually make up our own answers and see if people like that. It's, I think, in the modern world, it's called alternate facts. So I think best for the Tanzu business unit and the cloud provider team is actually give us the informations we need so that we can actually talk properly about that. Otherwise, we will just actually make something up. Then episode 34, so they have 2 more weeks' time. Episode 34 is going to be VCD 10.6 networking changes deep dive. This is one which is going to be, I think, primarily being run by Matthias. At least he volunteered for that one. And episode 35 is then going to be short ahead of VMware Explore. It's going to be our VMware Explore expectations, including we are going to do a session about what are we going to expect to see during the keynote. Not because we know it, just because we are going to do a real rumor session. And then afterwards, after Explore, we are going to actually make a check mark list on what actually came out and what did not come out, just for the fun of it. So that's going to be some of the next ones. In parallel, let us give you a bit of an overview on what comdivision is going to do during VMware Explore. So comdivision is going to have a customer briefing center at the Venetian. So we have a lot of space to meet with you. If you want to do that, keep a watch out on social media. We are going to post links very soon where you can set up meetings with us. We have our comdivision and friends dinner, which is invite only. You either get one or you don't. And if not, you have to think about it. Because it's but the other part is going to be.
May I introduce Eve, our new customer relationship manager?
Yes. You can always buy in for the dinner. So for the Monday evening, that's actually the even more fun part. So I'm looking far more towards that one to the dinner. Is going to be our first official comdivision poker tournament in the Venetian. So if you are at VMware Explore and if you are into poker, then you should better reach out to one of us and make sure that we put you on the list. We have limited seats, but we are going to start giving out the first seats in the next week. So if you want to be on the first list to attend the poker tournament, the comdivision poker tournament, we have a few interesting prizes, but it's more for the fun anyway. At the Venetian, it's going to be under official rules with everything you normally expect from an official tournament. So we are definitely looking forward to that one and how people are going to attend that. And if it's going to be very successful, we are going to most likely make this a yearly scenario, as long as we are going to stay in Vegas. If we are back in San Francisco.
Oh, I thought we stopped by tea and buy a casino, but yeah, whatever.
Good. Anything else? I would call it a day and head over to Matthias for his closing words. So from my side, goodbye.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to 10.6, but again, check the release notes, especially what Sasha mentioned regarding vSphere 8 update 3 and the whole TKG stuff. Be careful, there's always RTFM.
Yeah, take a look at the release notes, take a look at the compatibility lists, and make sure that your system is running in the next days, also after deploying updates, because we have so many support calls. Yeah.
But yeah, as Sasha would say, just take a snapshot. Or multiple.
Or multiples.
use multiple snapshots. Please use multiple.
Right. No, I'm sorry, but no, Sasha is our snapping turtle.
Yeah, thanks for joining and see you in the next episode.
See you.
Take care.